Yes. Yeah.
It's easy. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Formula, just the formula. We didn't write the formula. We're not that smart. No, I'm just kidding. Um, that's not our job. That's mathematicians, right? How's it going so far? Like, you guys keeping up with the materials? Is it too much or is it too little? Please say too little so you can move fast. No, yeah, I mean, if it gets really well, I usually like Deepak or Asan will tell me based on homework. If like majority kind of not doing, we'll take a pause like a class where we just do kind of like a recap again, bring it back out, and then make sure everybody's kind of on the same page. But so far, they have, you know, there's no alarming thing. So that means you guys are pretty much well prepared and kind of getting stuff done. All right. Today's really fun class. Like, I'm really excited about today's class. Right? We're gonna get to confusion, so that's this is very easy. So far, we're kind of just learning a little bit of here and there, what a string is, what a data type, which is important, right? But programming is all about an extension of us, right? Extension of how we make decisions, how we process from, like I said, the moment you wake up till you sleep, you kind of keep making decisions, right? Good, bad, it doesn't matter, right? But you continue to make decision. Your brain is continuing to kind of like making one decision after another decision after another decision, right? So, like I said, softwares are kind of an extension of us, right? It helps us to do things faster and quicker and more efficient. But in theory, they're kind of just an extension of us, right? So what we have to do is, how do we build that? So we have to tell our software to also make decisions, right? And that's when conditional statements comes into play, right? And everything that you're learning is pretty much same in all languages. So regardless you learn with Java or JavaScript, like I said, it's gonna be 90%. It's just syntax are different, and JavaScript is a little bit more strict. But believe it or not, I'm so glad that I learned those languages first before I got into JavaScript or Python. Like it's hard to come other way around, right? And this is kind of the harder way to learn it, right? Whereas JavaScript may be a little bit easier to learn, but then it's if we were to write something in Java, it's a little bit more difficult, right? So like, believe me, like, be happy that you're learning this way. I'm not just saying that because we are teaching. Like, I would love to teach this in JavaScript. It's just so much easier. But it's so much strict here, and they go into really details when it comes to Java. All right. So what is a conditional statement? So conditional statements are used to perform different actions based on different conditions. So different actions based on different conditions. The if statement is one of the most frequent used conditional statement. If the if statement condition expression evaluates to true, the block of code inside of the if statement is executed. If the expression is found to be false, the first set of code after the end of if statement, after closing the curly brace, is executed. So it's just simple, right? So you put an if statement, and then there's an expression comes, right? So the expression has to evaluate into true. What that means is, so let's say you say something like age is greater than 5, right? That result has to be true for this code, whatever inside of this curly braces, right? That's what will get executed, right? So something like, if Muhammad's email is valid, then send him an email, right? If it's not valid, I mean, where are you sending the email? So that's what we need to like build out, that expression, and based on the expression, what do you want the code to do, right? It's really simple. It's not crazy. Um, so then we use on any of those, we use any of the following comparison operators may be used to form a condition. So less than, greater than, not equals to, less than or equal to, greater than equal to, right? So we use any of those to make sure our condition comes back as Boolean, right? So either true or false. If it's true, do something. If it's false, do something else. And you can have a bunch of them, right? You can have if it's true, then do that. And then you can have another condition, another condition, another condition, so forth. All right. And then you have, obviously, like we talked about, if else. So that's great. If the condition is true, it will do something. But if you don't put an else, if it's not true, then it might not be a good. Else will kind of give you a little bit more visibility of what happened. Why didn't something go true, right? So if it's false, what do you want it to do, right? So let's say if Muhammad's email is valid, then send an email to him. Else, give him a message, like an alert to say, email is invalid, please enter a valid email. So it's kind of like covering a negative scenario. If it's not true, if it's negative, what should we do, right? So that's kind of the idea behind decision making. And like I said, this image kind of illustrates, okay, if you take the right turn, you're probably going somewhere. If you take the left turn, but you had to make a decision, right? And based on your decision, there were some outcomes. So that's what we're going to be working on today. A lot of cool exercises. So that's going to be good. All right. So high level. That's kind of what I want to stay at. Any questions here? Good.
No,
Yeah. All right.
understandable.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Where did it go? So let's do this. So let's build a program. So based on the time, it will give you a greeting message, right? Like good evening, good morning, or whatever, like good night. So think of something like this. If hour is between, and just to make it simple, we'll do military time. 11:59. Great. right? Between 1200 and 759. Oh, so, all right, so let's build this out. So the very first thing we need is an hour, right? In theory, we could do something like that in later in the end of the classes, we can say something like this, like int current time, right, equals to, let's say, date get current time, right? What this will do is, this will pretty much get the current time of your system, right? And we can evaluate against it. But for now, we're going to keep doing hard coding until we figure out how to deal with dates. So we'll do something like this. Let's say the current time is, I don't know, 1900, right? Oh, no, 1900, right? So we'll deal with it. We'll deal with this, and then we can say, well, let's do the first condition first, which is if hour is between 600 and 1159. So we can say if hour is 0600 if current time is greater than or equals to 0600. So this doesn't do it, right? We need to make sure that between two different values, right? It has to be between 0600 to 1159, which is around the noon time, right? So if we just do current time greater than equals to 0600, that doesn't do it, right? So what kind of operator we have to use to add another expression? Okay, that's good, logical, but and percent, right? Okay, so let's do that. Okay, and then we say, again, you have to do current time is less than 1200. So we can do less than, right? Because it's fine. That's 1159, and then you can write your code. You can say sell out. So that's usually the morning time, right?
So how about if I write 1160?
What do you mean?
So 1200. I don't understand.
1200 is, so so if you go back to your condition, it's saying, hey, if hour is between 0600 and 1159, you want to tell the user it's a good morning. So it's 6 a.m. to 12 at midnight, almost at noon time, right? If your time falls between that, you want to give that message. So what 1200 does is, we are saying its current time is less than 1200. So less than 1200 is, we'll copy 1159. Make sense? Good. All right. So let's say this is it, right? This is fine. This is what we're gonna want to do. And if we run this code, what happens? And raise your hand. Nothing happens, right? Because it evaluates to false because the current time is 1900. Make sense? Because 1900 doesn't fall under. So sometime you may have a condition where you just want to do if. There is no second condition. Does that make sense? So you don't have to do else or else if, right? So, but in this case, that's not the case, right? We have another condition where we have to do, and then finally another condition. So if you need to have multiple condition, right? Multiple decision, not just one or two, maybe one, two, three. This whole logic can take 3 or 4 different paths, right? So you have to keep creating them out, right? So in our case, we just have to create 2 more, one here, and then finally there's another one, right? So let's do, if you wanted to add another condition within your logic, you'll say else. So it has to be else if. It's not if, it has to be else if. So what we are saying, hey, if this is not true, then go to this one, right? If this is not true, then go to some other ones. Does that make sense? So we'll keep going down, but as soon as something becomes true, it will execute it and come out of it, because that's what it's kind of doing, right? So here we'll say again, current time, and maybe we'll just make it simpler. Maybe you guys get a bit confused. Instead of current time, we'll just call it an hour. And you see how I did this, right? So this is called refactoring. So let's say you have a value that has been called on multiple places, like maybe 100 places. So you don't want to keep changing each one of those. It's not possible, right? So what you want to do is something called refactor. So you right click on it, and where did it go? And you see refactor, and what we want to do is rename it, right? And we'll rename it to an hour. You see everywhere this reference of current time was, it's kind of now updated to an hour. All right, so we're saying if hour is greater than now equals to 1200, and also hour is less than 1800, what we can say is good evening, right? All right, cool. What happens now? If we run this code, what will happen? Right? Nothing's gonna happen, right? Because our conditions we still have almost about an 8 hour that is left out, right? It's a 24-hour cycle. We almost left out another 8 hours. So you don't have to write another condition saying else if those conditions are not true, by default, it's gonna be the other one, right? So our days are what, 24 hours. So so that's kind of how we have to think about it, right? If these two are not true, by default, everything else is what we are looking for, right? So you could probably say this and write the logic and make it into, okay, hey, if it's between 1200 and 1800, so you can go like, okay, if it's greater than or equals to 1800 and less than and equals to 2400, right? Goes up to 2359. You can write that, right? But we don't need to, because we know if we cover those two conditions, then the last one by default is something that the program will figure it out. So what we can do is, in this case, you just say else.
Can we also refactor the last one?
No, I use Sandbox for typing. I mean, you want me to refactor that?
I just wondering if it's possible.
Yeah, you can refactor everything, but don't do it now. Okay, when we get there, we'll figure. When we start creating objects and moving them around, you're gonna do that. Anyway.
But not which one will be constant, right?
You can refactor anything. Okay, you're confusing yourself with the reassignments and refactoring. Refactoring is just changing names. Maybe you misspell routing number, right? So you just want to rename it, but routing number may have been called on 100 different places, right? So you don't want to go into every single code. You just not gonna know. Don't worry too much about it now. We're gonna go over refactoring later, but for now, if you wanted to rename something, you will use refactoring concept so that every instance gets updated. Are we cool? All right. So by default, it's going to be night, right? So we'll just say good night. That was easy. Any questions?
I think our phone use outside, why it's kind of an example.
Yeah, you can take that.
Make it.
Scanner? I don't want to do it. You can do it. Okay? Don't make me work more. The idea is the concept of getting it right. How we take the data, it can come from a database, it can come from a website, it can come from a scanner. It doesn't matter, right? But
Already not record the video scanner. I make search here, but I didn't find. You explained scanner before, but I didn't find the video.
okay, don't worry about scanner. I think we are getting over worried about scanner, which doesn't add value. What you need to really understand is the data part of it, right? All we care about is this variable, what is stored. This data can come from 1,000 different places. Scanner is just one of them, right?
Yeah.
So, but in this case, what you want to focus on is the actual value.
Question on this highlighting. Why is highlighting?
Yeah, it's just, IDE is trying to be smart enough to tell you what's happening. Don't worry about that. It's not an error. But if you start to resolve based on what they're saying, you're gonna run into an error, right? So don't worry about it. It's just like before you run it, it's trying to tell you this is a false statement. Like the return value of this is going to be false, right? That's all. It's just kind of giving you telling you that hey, this is gonna be a false. This is gonna be a false. So chances are this is gonna be a true, right? So don't stress about that one. All right. Now, there's many ways to test this, right? You want to kind of test it with, I don't know, we've done coding before, right? In a sense. Right? So 0700 falls between 0600 and 1200, right? So you can kind of test this out. So make sure when we are writing stuff, we are writing a test scenario. So you're going to have an exercise today where you have to write some test cases again for a new code that we are going to be writing. So the way we are going to do is write the test first, and then we're going to develop the code, right? So that would be one of our exercises today. All right, let's do one more. Any questions from online? Go ahead.
So if you had used just one single AND operator, would that have made any difference? Or
like if we did this, is that what you mean?
no. So you used like two AND operator signs, right? Like the logical AND.
Yeah, we have to use two.
Yeah, because in that image you shared, there were like two, like a singular AND and like a.
What do you mean?
And two AND signs.
I did this?
Yeah.
No, we need to use two. Okay?
Okay.
All right. All right. So let's comment this out, or in fact, I'm going to just share this on Slack so you have it with you. We're going to do one more, and then we'll do some classwork. All right, let's do a Boolean. Is account locked? And we'll set it to false. Let's say account is not locked. And then we'll say string user role. Something that we can all relate to, right? User role equals to user. What we want to do is, if the account is locked, right? Let's say you had X amount of tries, right? You try to log into Chase, you had X amount of tries, they're going to lock your account. So if his account is locked, we want to tell the users, hey, your account is locked. Make sense? If user role equals to admin, right, then I want you to kind of tell them, hey, welcome to admin dashboard. That makes sense? If he's if he's anything else, if he's not admin, let's say if he's user or guest or whatever, regular user or guest, we just say welcome, right? But if he's admin, maybe we want to display a different dashboard, right? Maybe they have some other capabilities or things like that that a regular user may not have. But what we want to take away from here is that order of operation. Okay, so let's do this. If, even though the condition you could have, it's very important which is your first if statement is, right? Think about this. If I validate user role first, right? If I validate user role first and check is account locked after, even if it's locked, it will still give you the right message, right? Because the first statement will always end up being true, right? So what we have to do here is that we have to first check if it's locked or not. If it's locked, we don't do anything else. Then only we kind of go into the second statement and third statement and so forth. So the last exercise was one thing. It could either be true or false in any condition. But in this case, it's slightly different. You have order of operation. It's important, right? Like I said, we're going to do more exercises, put you through a lot of the challenges through the next couple of days to make those decisions, right? Order of operation, and you're going to try to work on it. It's not going to work, and believe me, it's just you have to think a little bit, right? So in here, very first thing we want to do is account locked. We want to check that. So we've dealt with numbers, but now we are dealing with Boolean statements, right? So we want to check if it's true or false. You could do this. You could say, hey, if use account, but remember, only if this is true, your code gets executed, right? So what we want to do is you could do something like this. True. But we don't do that, right? We don't have to do that. What we can do is just, by default, if you don't put the equal sign, is evaluating against true. So doing this is same as not putting it at all. Okay? Now both will work, but this looks a little bit more cleaner, right? So we are saying, hey, if is account locked, right, is true, then you want to say your account is locked. We can get fancy and put a timer and say for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, right? All right, so that's fine. So very first thing we're checking, if account is locked, then we want to be done with this code, like that specific code base. So there's nothing else to do here. But if it's not locked, okay, let's start checking other stuff, right? We can say, well, else if, we can say user role and dot equals admin. You might want to do equals ignore cases, right? So someone could probably put uppercase, lowercase, mix, right? So we'll just ignore their cases because that's not what's important here. And then we'll say you guys thought it was a testing class? That was wrong. It's a programming class. Welcome, admin. Make sense? Come on. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Raise your hand. How it makes sense. Are you serious? Okay. Let's go over it one more time. Okay.
Can you make the books a bit bigger, smarter?
Okay. You're the guy who doesn't see, or is your brother? Both of you. Oh my God.
You can
Okay, I can do two more because I need space too here. How about now? All right. 2 pixel makes a lot difference, I guess. very first thing we're checking to find out if account is locked or not, right? If it's locked, we are telling them, hey, your account is locked. And then the code gets out and does things here, right? Code goes here after if statement, okay? So, soon as if it's locked, it will execute this and done with it, right? If it's false, let's say if it's not locked, in our case it's not locked, right? Because we set it to false. If it's not locked, then there's nothing to do here. So it goes into the second statement and say, okay, since it's not locked, whatever, I'm gonna get out of here. And now here, we don't care about if the account is locked or not. We are completely checking something else. We're saying, hey, we're checking a user role. If is equal ignore case means we don't care about the case sensitive here, right? It could be uppercase admin, lowercase admin, mix match, right? That's what we are kind of focusing on here. And we are saying, hey, if user role equals to admin, then send me a message called welcome admin, right? And then if it's not admin, if it's anybody else, and let's just say just say welcome, right? So if I run this code now and raise your hand, what would get executed? Just welcome, right? Can you walk me through why?
Because the first statement is true, it's goes second.
Wait. What happened on the first statement here?
It's true.
If it's true, then I shouldn't see that, right? How is it true? It's not true. Is account locked? If it's true, then this code will never get here, right? So if this statement is true,
False, yeah. False, going second one.
and then and-
User role is admin. It's user welcome admin, but our user role is user.
okay,
It's goes
Good.
to us.
so now we're going somewhere. All right? Does everyone agree? So the very first statement, we are checking if account is locked or not. In our case, it's not locked. Therefore, it goes into second statement to check, hey, is user role equals to admin? Again, that results into false. We're not done yet. It goes again here and checks, hey, by default, everything else is in welcome. All right, so let's play around a little bit. Let's test a few scenarios. What happens now? Raise your hand. If I run this code, what would happen? The account's locked, right? So it comes here and it checks, hey, is account locked or not? And then this one obviously looks for it here and says, hey, it is locked. And therefore, if you run this code, so what happened here? Your account is locked, but what really happened? So as soon as this became true, it executes these lines, right? And it gets out. It does not do anything here. These are pretty much useless code at that point because as soon as it finds its true statement, it's done with it. All right? But let's check this out. We'll change this and raise your hand. Don't.
It's still gonna be the first one. Your account is locked.
Yeah, even though the admin has changed, but it doesn't matter, right? But the first condition is still. So, do you understand the order of operation is very important? If we did this comparison here, it's totally broken code, right? So when we are engineering something, when we're building something, this is where we make a lot of mistakes. Order of operation is so important, and I'm sure it's going to help you guys a little, later down the course. All right, it's time for you to do some work.
I have a question. Like, since we are like as a new programmer, we made this kind of mistake. So what is gonna do that?
Ooh.
Because we have to be sensitive all the time, like what we are doing, all these steps, right?
If someone pays you to do something, there's no forgiveness. Okay? If someone is paying you $90,000 and $100,000 a year, what do you think this is? They're gonna give you, oh no, it's fine. Go ahead, keep the mistake. You figure it out, right? We all be an adult and professional, and we figure it out and we solve it. And by end of this course, you got to do those things. Otherwise, Deepak gets angry. Believe me, it's not.
Anyway,
Huh?
he's angry all-
He's always angry. So,
I have a question.
uh,
If I need two message, like your account is locked and welcome admin.
yeah, but that's you have to write. You have to change this up a little bit. I mean, why would you say your account is locked and welcome to admin? That doesn't make sense. Your account is already locked. I'm not in the dashboard screen. We can do anything you want to do with the code, but it has to make sense what you're trying to do, right? It's like you're saying,
Okay,
"Hey, I want to
Hey,
the
your account is open. Welcome to admin.
You can write code anyhow you want it. You can do that, but you can add it to this code. Think about this one, how you can add that. But before we get there, let's focus on the classwork and let's see if we can finish this. All right. The classwork is temperature equals to 45, right? This is the current temperature. If temp is 32 or lower, then print it is freezing outside. If temp is 100 or higher, then print it is hot outside. If above true statement is false, then print it is nice outside. Okay, or that's fine. Make sense? So let's get this done, and then we'll do more exercises throughout the night. Okay. I'm sure he appreciate it. You guys should sit in the front. No. You come late, that's what you get. Oh, it's first come, first serve, right? All right, any questions from online about the test? Raise your hand if you have a question.
It shouldn't take too long.
in the first one, F stupid, there was one
All right, let's go for this. Anybody from online finished? If you finish, you can share the code with me. And we can go over your code. All right, Nirmal wants to share. So okay, temp is 45. So Nirmal, like, try to add this space. Looks nicer. So if he's saying that, okay, if temp is less than or equals to 32, it is freezing outside. That's fine. He's covering anything less than 32, right? So he's doing sort of like a boundary analysis here. And then what he's saying is that, well, if it's not less than or equals to 32, there's two other options. It's either 33 or 99, right? It's between that or something that is greater, right? So he's saying, well, if his temperature is greater than or equals to 100, it is hot outside, right? So he pretty much covered the two boundary, and then we're left with middle piece, right? So that has to be anything 33, anything between 33 and 99 will pretty much say it is nice outside, right? So in theory, if we run this code, let's comment this out. And for those who have not finished it, you can just kind of verify your code against this. It is nice outside, and then we can test his logic. But let's just do 32, right? It is freezing, and we can do Middle East weather. Right? So that's, all the conditions pretty much checks out. So that's kind of your testing. So every time you write your code, make sure you're testing all the scenarios, right? I like to write the test first and then kind of do that. All right, we've reached 47 minutes mark, so we'll take 13 to 15 minutes break, and we'll get back at, around 8 o'clock. All right?
Now give me
Okay.
everything is
You sure everything is same?
no. So I asked him.
See if you can solve it. Think about it. Don't I can solve it real quick,
Yeah,
but
I know.
I just want to
Very
see.
quick.
I just want you gotta get out of it. Okay.
No, I know that. What you forgot. But you gotta start probably PhD to run the code. You didn't start that.
Thank you.
Because I've been doing same thing. Yeah, then I found that I always miss it, you know.
Good job, Nirmal.
Mohammed, I had a question.
What's up, buddy?
So for that last exercise, when we did like let's say converting Celsius into Kelvin, right? So when I put let's say once like 0 degrees Celsius is 273.15. So if you put 0, the output will show 273.15. But if you show 43.2, it will so instead of showing like 378.25, it would show like 249999.
Which conversion?
Like Celsius to pretty much anything. One second.
Okay. Can you send me the code that you're talking about?
So,
Okay.
for instance, in the first case, let's say if I enter the temperature in Celsius is equal to 2, right?
Okay.
So, in that case, that my temperature in Kelvin would show 275.15 as expected. But let's say if I enter my
What?
temperature in Kelvin
Okay.
as
Why are
2.1,
you? Why are you
then
adding this here? So you took the temp in from the scanner,
yeah.
and you're adding that value. Okay, so you're. What's your formula?
Formula is right about right right underneath the scanner.
I don't see the formula. Right, so you have your scanner, you have system out, enter temperature in Celsius, and then you have.
Then I have my
Check all this.
temperature in Kelvin is equal to temperature in Celsius plus 273.15. That's my formula.
Yeah, but now that's not correct though. That's not a correct formula.
Like, is my formula just not correct, or
Yeah.
like my syntax is not
No,
correct?
the formula is not correct.
I mean,
It's not doing
that's not
anything.
my main question.
It's
So
not
my
doing.
question is, so like, if
It's
you
not.
add like 2 points,
What I'm trying to say is it's not doing anything. All you're doing is you're adding whatever value you're entering into your console to 273.15. So that doesn't do anything for us. Why don't we do this? Let's go over this after the class, okay?
okay.
All right. All right, Andre, let me check it out. What's the error are you getting, Andre?
Excuse me.
Andre,
Yeah, do you hear me?
what's the error?
I don't know where is my mistake. The system showing me is error.
Yeah, because I think the mistake is, where you're saying if temperature equals to less than. So you need to say less than first and then the equal sign.
Uh-huh.
And same thing with the second one, temperature, it should be greater first and then the equal sign.
Uh-huh. Okay.
All right,
Okay.
let's do it.
Okay.
All right. All right. You missed a curly brace. If you open one, you need to close one. If you open two, you need to close two.
I checked one by one. I found the open and the close.
You missed one. What's up?
If we need equals string, we must use the equals ignore case.
You don't have to do ignore case.
We
If you don't want to,
yeah, if we don't. But if we use the char, if we need equal,
then you have to use double equal. You know,
yeah, that, but when I try, it doesn't make sense. Uppercase, lowercase.
no, because char there is no upper. This is either uppercase or lowercase. You cannot be ignoring it.
I put if else like lowercase, but I put
Char you cannot do that.
Yeah,
it's not going to work. No, char is different. All right, everyone, let's continue. So the second classwork is going to be writing test cases for the program we'll be writing. All right. So the first condition is if customer has, so you're trying to, it's recording. I didn't stop it actually. So if customer has, so the whole idea is to are you eligible to buy an iPhone, right? Which I think is overpriced, right? So if customer has $1,000 or more on the checking account and, right, and iPhone X is available on the inventory, then display alert saying you can go to store and purchase the iPhone. Right? That's the first condition. Now, in your case, say, Andre, I think somebody need to mute. Nirmal. Okay. All right. Perfect. Are we all clear on the first one? All right. Second one is if customer has credit score greater than 600 or customer has $1,000 or more on checking account, then display alert saying you are eligible to purchase the phone. You're eligible. First one is go to the store and buy it. This one is okay, you're eligible to purchase, but you can make a decision later. But the first one, you know what? Go ahead. We have one available, and then you have the money too. If none of the above condition is true, not true. Yeah. So if none of the condition is not true, then display alert saying you're not eligible to buy the phone. Okay. Now the alert part, don't worry about it. I'll show you how you guys do that. Right? We can do a pop-up message and stuff like that. What I want you to do is not write the code, right? I don't want you to write the code right now. What I want you to write is test cases. Like for these, how would you test it? Like do like a high level, and you don't have to go into Excel and say expect it. Just say, hey, verify this, verify user able to do this. You enter this value, then it should come up as that. So the three values that we are dealing with is what? Can someone guess? What are the three values we always going to evaluate against?
Balance of a check.
Checking account balance.
Yeah.
All right.
So iPhone is in store or no? That's number 2.
iPhone is in the store or not?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and also number 3 about high score like that.
Credit score.
Yeah, credit score.
Credit score. Excellent. Right? So you was able to break it down pretty quick. So that's phenomenal. So these are the three values that we are kind of doing it. So think of like a back-end engineering, right? If we were to build this kind of software, we'll build it in the back end. So there is no design. You don't need a design. You don't need a wireframe, right? Whatever. We need to write some unit test, right? And you have to kind of figure out the test cases, just like how he figured out what are the value I have to deal with here, and then he was able to, now let's write some test cases how this can break, right? And how this can pass. So we need to find all of the passing scenario and then a possible failing scenario. All right, and and don't stress about it if you don't get it right. But I want you to give an attempt, and then we'll write the code together. All right.
I don't understand like, why using double on like a because double is like two, right? So there is only 1,000.
Yeah.
Kind of one.
Think about it. Think about double.
Balance we have,
Right? What does double balance is something that you can have $1,000 50 cents. I don't necessarily have to have a double value, but if I have a double value, then I'm screwed, right? So it's about, think about the reason for having certain data types, right? Like for in iPhone inventory, I had to do whole value because you're not gonna have 1.5 iPhone, right? So you have to think about those kind of stuff. Credit score, I don't think it comes in decimal. So, right? So it's a whole value. So those are the reasons, right? Think about it a little bit and try to figure it out, and then go from there. You had a question? Huh? You got your answer? Wow, that was good. The reason I put iPhone inventory, we can even go farther with this code, right? Every time someone purchases it, we'll keep subtracting an inventory from it, right? So there's so much we can do, but we can also do what you say, true or false. That also does it. But this gives you more leverage, right? You can keep count of how many sold and how many left. Yeah. So let's say 3 years purchased today, and then tomorrow someone wants to buy it.
Maybe he needs some more than
Yeah. So you're maintaining the inventory as
So I
also.
want to know what's the balance is available or not available like that. Do you want to ask to 3 or 3 pieces like that? Or
What do you mean?
For that is the iPhone.
Yeah, that's the part. It's tricky. You have to build that out.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about writing the code. I want you to focus on writing the test case. How would you test this? You guys, anyone had a question over there?
You writing code or
Test cases. Come on, guys. All of you guys are gonna be test engineers. You gotta write some tests.
Is it if customer has credit score greater than 600 or its score?
Yeah. Reza, got it?
I'm reading.
Okay. And if you want to work on this as a group, I'm okay with that. Right? That's fine. Like every role can be a group. Just do it on there. Do it on the code. And a double slash, double comment. But however you want.
I started code.
No, like I'm saying, like you can just comment that and write your scenario. Verify this, verify that. You know what I mean? Things is something like, oh, verify test case, balance less than 1,000. Yeah, but there's no user here. Guys, I'll do like a one quick one, just so that we're not lost. Like, look, this is what I just want you to do, right? Let's say very first one, right? Test case 1 equals to verify scenario with balance less than 1,000, right? So see what it outputs, right? And then you can do like another one saying verify scenario with 0 inventory, right? So the code is code able to handle all of those conditions. That's what you have to do. Huh? Yeah, but you can write it here with comments. You know, that's fine. A lot of time we can use this as a kind of just the test case. Right. You guys writing it? Work together. Alright? You guys need to communicate. No, that's fine. Like whatever you think, that's fine. Write it out. Whatever you, it doesn't have to be that. You know what I mean? Just think about how we used to write test cases. You know what vending machine? Let's go back to vending machine. If you're thinking of rules, so I want you to spend 5 Saturdays here. Okay, study all day. Forget weekends anymore, right? Because you gotta pick it up. Know what's tomorrow, right? Saturday, not just here for hours. Even if they leave, if I do a group study, so you have to study. If you work in long hours, it's just hours, right? But just study. You gotta invest in yourself. It's not gonna be easy, right? But then it will get easier. We don't invest in ourselves. We invest. Right? Yeah, that's fine. Override the code. Yeah, if you can write the code, that's fine. We want to do the rewriting. I like to write just first before I do something. You know, so it's it kind of covers your brainstorming. I mean, you still miss out, but it's less.
Fair enough.
Where is your friend? Is it? Yeah. He's picking up that. No, not 3. You can write more, but that's fine if you wrote 3. Alright guys, let's do this together now. And then we'll test this out. So the very first condition, we just need to make sure the balance and inventory. Right? So we'll say if customer checking balance is greater than or equals to 1,000 and iPhone inventory is greater than 0, right? It's pretty much. So you guys are like, this is so easy, all right, to break it down. And then we'll just do like, you know how we did scanner? We'll use an external library to build the alert. Instead of system out, we'll just do a dummy alert. A very nasty one from the 90s. So there's the J option pane dot show message dialog. And don't worry about this code, right? That's not important. Null, and then you can say you can go to store and purchase the iPhone. All right. So that covers pretty much the first condition that we wanted to do, and then we can do something like else if and customer. What we're checking is credit score, right? If the credit score, but here we needed to have both to be true, right? The balance needed to be greater than 1,000, and then also iPhone had to be in an inventory. In our case, we are keeping account. So think about it. This value does so much for us, right? We can check the store. Let's say we have an access to iPhone inventories, right, from somewhere. Now, believe it or not, we can do so much with it, right? We can, if it reaches, let's say if it reaches lower, we can keep sending message to the store manager, hey, your inventory stuff is getting lower than 10% and the demand is that much, right? So much you can do, it's crazy, right? So this is very important, like you name your stuff pretty, descriptive way so that people can understand what's happening. So even like, let's say tomorrow we bring in a new programmer, we're assuming that person has a Java experience, right? When we hire someone. So look at, as long as they look at the code, they understand what's going on. They don't need to read the comments and stuff like that. So same thing with you guys. What you're kind of getting out of here, it's that, right? Now, when you go into a job, it's gonna be apple to apple. I don't know, right? That's not how it is. So but you can look at it, you can understand it, you can digest that, right? So that's kind of what you want to do. One more thing I don't want to hear for next 3 days, how things are going to be at work. Let's focus on learning, right? Once the job situation comes, we'll deal with it, right? But if you're not good at learning, if you're not able to grab those, then how do you expect someone to give you an opportunity, right? So let's be good at this, and I can promise you, getting the job is the easier part, right? But learning this is the dedication and kind of sticking around with it, right? But if you're thinking about job and salary, those are secondary, believe me. I know it's hard, right? We all have bills to pay, but that's not gonna solve the problem, right? Let's just solve if statement next couple of days, right? Before we solve problems at work.
On the second line, can I use the system out entering?
You can use system out, but in this case, I want to deal with alert, right? Because that's what we decided to do.
Excuse me.
What's up?
This one also gotta be like kind of true. Can we add for first one because they're all similar, you know?
What do you
Has
mean?
to be like graded.
No, because this
There's
one is
maximum.
it's slightly different. If customer has credit score greater than 600, right? Or customer has 1,000 or more in the checking account.
Oh,
It's not and, okay? Because if it has greater than 600, maybe we can write more code to have them apply for a loan, right? Does that make sense? So you got to think, right? You got to like, I'm just creating these requirements in my head. Coding for so long, you just kind of keep thinking stuff, right? So, but that's, I'm thinking like maybe we want to do something else with this later, right? So you want to keep these openings, open so that it's easier to kind of deal with the code. But the key is it needs to be greater than 600, or if it has $1,000, that's fine. That person is eligible to purchase it, right? All right. And then we can say we need to use two pipe symbols, right? And then we'll say customer checking balance greater than equals to 1,000. And then we'll just copy these lines. And the reason I'm doing this stuff over and over, and we will learn how to simplify this, but I want us to kind of feel the pain a little bit, and then we understand why we have to simplify it, right? If you don't run into a problem, it's hard to solve them. So it's more problems. So a lot of the problems and repetitiveness it's by design, right? So we'll simplify it as we kind of go, move forward. So now we can say something like, you are eligible to purchase, right? So now you have the eligibility, but then you still have to make a decision. Do you want to go to the store and purchase it online or whatnot, right? But think about it. We could build something based off zip code and look for inventory around that area by radius. There's just so much cool stuff you can do when you really know how to play with the code, right? It doesn't matter what type of product is that as long as you know how to, mess around with it. Last statement, what we want to say is,
need check how many icons we have.
in this case, no. The second condition, all we are checking, see, you're missing the requirement, okay? The second condition we are saying is if customer has a credit score greater than 600 or customer has 1,000 or more on checking account, there's nothing to do with the iPhone on the second statement. The very first one we are dealing with iPhone. Do not create your own requirements, okay? Going forward, because that's a big bug. That's how you create bug. Don't try to kind of overdo this thing, right? Because that's not what the business wants. They want specific things, build that for them, right? So otherwise, it's gonna come back as a bug. Now, if this is a condition, and then if this two condition is false, we just want to say you're not eligible. All right. So we'll copy this code, and you don't have to do this alert thing. You can just do system out, right, to make it simple. But if you're curious, if you wanted to mess around with alert, you can do that. And I also thought seeing alert from the 90s would be nice. Because these days all fancy stuff. Okay, so let's comment this piece of code. And then we'll just run this. What am I expecting to see? And raise your hand.
You can go to store to purchase it.
Okay, why?
Because the account balance is 1,000 and the credit score is 700 and the credit score.
But why do I care about credit score here?
Because the customer have like 600-700 credit score.
Yeah, but the first
your
condition.
accepting is 600 or greater. Therefore, you can.
I understand what you're saying. I wrote that stuff, right? But I just want to understand. I want to understand why did you mention credit score?
Because if one of them doesn't meet the
No, let's
requirement-
focus. Let's focus. Right? Let's focus. Let's focus on this one. Read this code. This line. Can you read it?
Customer account balance 1,000 and account inventory is 1.
Does that say anything about credit score?
No.
So there was nothing to do
So
with
it's
credit
true.
score. Right. It's true, that's fine. But I didn't want to hear about credit score. Right? When you're a programmer, every detail matters. Okay? Every single thing matters. Otherwise it's gonna be a big problem. Okay? So that's the reason I'm saying you really have to understand what you're saying. Okay? He's right. In this case, customer checking balance. And when you read this code, I want you to read the logical operators, right? So customer checking balance is greater than or equals to 1,000 and iPhone inventory is greater than 0, right? So that's how you read it, all right? And then, all right, so that's fine. How do we test this stuff out? Can we do some test cases? Zahir?
Yeah, sure. I have the values let's say,
One second. Let's do that test case.
let's say the person has less than 1,000.
Okay, so let's do 999, right?
Sure.
What do I expect to see?
You're eligible to purchase the iPhone because it's very score still.
So let me run this code, right? I mean, you have to give me the output as well, right? So you're saying you're not eligible for?
Yeah.
You're
No,
not.
I'm saying you are eligible. It's like the second condition.
Okay.
Credit score.
And that the alert came on my other screen. You are eligible to purchase phone, right? We can get more specific, right? Based on, okay, you have a credit score, that's why, even though your balance is less. But forget it, that's a separate thing. But you got the alert message that you wanted to see, right? All right. What was your question?
Okay, so you went the customer credit score is greater than 600. But does that mean it's gonna reach 700 because it could be maybe 650 or
What do you mean? I'm checking to make sure if this value, if whatever's inside of this is greater than 600. Don't worry about what's inside of it. You got to focus on the logic, right? So in this case, it is true. Yes, it is greater than 600. All right? All right.
Excuse me.
Another test case.
And the second one, the else if, why we copying customer checking balance greater or equal to 1,000 because of the test case? Because
No, not because of the test case.
Because
It's
the
because
same
of
thing.
how is the same thing? Because of the requirement. Look at the second requirement.
Oh. For example,
Read the second requirement.
if customer has credit score greater than 600,
Guys, let's be quiet. Let's
600 or customer has $1,000 or more in checking account, then this will allow after the eligible purchase the phone.
I want to make sure if it has a greater than 600, right? Or if the customer has $1,000, if either or is true, I want to kind of send a message saying you're eligible to purchase it.
But in first one, we also
Yeah, but
said like customer if it's
that's
checking
fine. But this one is combined with inventory.
He's confusing and or state logical operators.
Look, I'm putting an or operator here,
Yeah.
and I'm putting an %.
uh,
Okay? But that's fine. When you're alone, mess around with this code, change the operators, and break the code, okay?
I'm sorry, I'm not clear. Okay, so the customer credit score is greater than 600, but maybe it's not 700, it could be 653.
That's fine. It's still greater than 600.
Yeah, but
650.
it couldn't reach 700 because the condition is.
No, you're getting confused somewhere else. What's happening? If is 653 greater than is 600 greater than 653?
No.
Exactly, right?
No, but on the top it was 700.
It doesn't matter what number is this, right? This could be 900, right? This could be 601, right?
Oh, so it can be less than 600.
if I change it to
if that's why you want to read it, but I'll read it as a greater than 600. That's what we want to focus at, right?
if I change the credit score to 500.
Okay.
less than
So tell me what will be the output? Can
the
someone
last one,
guess?
eligible.
Right?
That's it.
Because first check, okay, well, we're not doing anything. Soon as this is not greater than 1000, I'm done here. There is
Yeah.
nothing happening here, right?
Yeah.
And then, so first condition is false. So we're not doing any execution
Yeah.
here. We come to the second condition. Now here, as long as one of them is true, we are going to evaluate this as a true. So we say customer credit score greater than 600. Is it greater than 600? Is 500 greater than 600? No, right.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And then, or, so this is false, but we have to check another
in
statement.
this case, the last one will be a
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, I need the first one. What should I do upstairs?
Where?
I
Here?
need the first message. What should I change in a variable?
Oh, well, tell me.
Question.
That's the test cases, right?
Yeah.
We just have to change this one, right? This has to be 1000,
Yeah.
at least 1000, right? So it could be 2000 or whatever. And your inventory has to be at least greater than 0. Okay? Because that means you have an iPhone at the store and you also have enough money in your bank to purchase it.
Yeah, I understand. Can you make one, please? Which is the first message?
You testing my code? Is that what it is?
No,
Huh?
not to understand.
You queuing my code?
No, to make sure. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I understand. You think it won't work? It will always work. You can go to store and purchase the iPhone. I don't like QA testing my code, all right?
No.
I'm just kidding.
Thank you.
So we have an interesting case where the checking balance is good, but your inventory is 0, and your credit score is good.
So you have inventory is 0,
And your credit score is good. Put it over.
like 7. And this is what?
Anything over 1,000 is fine.
Over 1000?
Yeah.
Okay. What's happening? I don't know this test case.
This is the my question. We also need to check how many iPhone we have.
Give your money and run away.
Because it says to you are in to purchase the iPhone.
Go to another one. Didn't go to store.
Yeah, see?
So, but there's no iPhone.
We have bug.
No, that's fine. That's fine, right? We are not checking inventory on the second condition. So it's not a broken code,
You are eligible.
But- right? So it's not a broken code. What's happening is we can bring this up, right? But maybe that's how they're just telling you you're eligible to purchase it. They're not just saying go to store and get it,
Fair enough.
right? So they means me a few hours ago deciding this, right? So that's fine. So in this case, it's totally fine, right? That's not a broken code. But this is great because if you open a bug, this discussion is gonna happen. All right? It's because the second condition is just telling you you're eligible to buy or not. It's not telling you if it's do we have it in inventory or not. The first one is telling you we have it in inventory and you have the money, go ahead burn it, right? But in the second one, we're just telling you you're eligible to purchase it, but not necessarily going to the store and buying it.
And I have
Okay.
a question. We have
Oh, don't get it.
we have checked same time. How many?
Yeah, let
iPhone we
him give
have.
him a chance. Give him a chance. Go ahead.
Second condition, we have also checked how
Guys,
many.
guys,
iPhone
I
we
can't
have.
hear him. Like, let's give him a chance. Go ahead.
Second condition, we have checked how many iPhone we have.
Second conditions, we are not checking how many
Yeah,
iPhones.
but if we need to check,
We are not doing it. That's not the goal here, right? Again, you have to stay within the boundary of the requirements. Make sense? You want to play with the code? That's fine. You can do that later. But for now, we have to stay within the boundary of the code. All right? I mean, requirements. This is very important. When you override the requirement, it doesn't mean you get extra credit. It's a bug. Okay? You're deliberately creating bugs for yourself. So don't do that. Someone's gonna send the code back and say, hey, what the hell are you doing, right? That's not what we want to do. I mean, it's not mean that way, but
Is
Yeah.
it possible to change the size of the window, the pop-up window?
I think so, but don't worry about that. It's just to kind of today to show you, we're not gonna use that Windows stuff. Um, are you a UI UX designer by any chance?
Just so small.
I know it's ugly. That was the whole purpose of it. All right, let's assign some homework, and then we'll continue with more exercises. But you get the idea, right? Try to write the test first, right? And then getting into the if statement. It's a hurdle, guys. It's not an YouTube class. You have to work for it, right? We don't teach if statement in 2 minutes. It's gonna take a day to learn it and more exercise and exercise it. But don't quit on me. It's gonna eventually get to you. So we're gonna have a couple of homeworks. This is the very first one. Right. Let's. I'll share this code in case if you want to play around with it. And let's delete everything. See, we've done a lot of work already today. I also want you to write some test cases for this as well. All right, so get used to writing test. So let's say we have a restaurant, right, and it serves vegan dishes and then non-vegan. Non-vegetarian, right? So first, I want you to find out, and then the two guests walks into the restaurant, right? And the first thing is checking. Are the both customer vegan? Are they both vegan? Then only give him the menu that's vegan, because that only makes sense, right? We ask them, are you guys both vegan, whatever, and they say we are both vegan. You only want to give that menu, right? And then you have, so let's say, second condition, one says, hey, I'm a vegan, the other one says no, right? So in that case, make sure to offer up some vegan options. So you give the regular menu with some vegan option, all right? And when I said this, just print out system out, right? System out saying, okay, offer. Don't try to actually create the food. And then finally, if none of those things are true, then offer anything on the menu. Just offer the full menu to them, all right? So those are the three things. It should be very easy based on what we have done so far, all right? So any questions on the homework? Deepak, are we good at one? All right. I'm going to put a code on the screen, and I want you to take a moment to find out what's going on, all right? So think of a code base that tells you, based on the weather outside, is telling you, how to dress, right? So you wake up, based on the weather, it's telling you, hey, it's raining, take an umbrella, right? It's hot, whatever, right? So the code is already written, but I really want you to focus on understanding it. Don't copy it and run it to test it out. Just try to understand what's happening, and then we'll do a lot of test cases around it, and then go through it. The reason I do this exercise, most of the time, what's going to happen when you go into a company, it's not like you're writing new code all the time. You might have to write code inside of this. Like you have to maybe modify this. So you have to also learn how to read other people's code, right? So it's one thing writing in new requirements, but another thing is refactoring an existing code base. So in this case, that's kind of one of the example, and we'll go over it. So take about 10, 15 minutes, try to understand it, and then, no, we're not doing it. And try to do it individually, guys. Not like in build up, like, not too No, it's not for homework. We're gonna do this right here. Homework is something else. See it from all the way here. looks like we are ready to discuss this. Okay. So what we have here is, guys, we have an if statement, but then we have another if inside of it. So it's called nested if statements. Nested if. So nested means one thing inside of another thing, right? So if the outer if statement is true, then only inner if statement will get executed. Think of like doors, right? You have a main door in your house, and then you have a bathroom door or a bedroom door or whatnot. If the main door is open, then only you have access to go into either. Well, you have an option to now, right? You have an option to either open the bedroom door or bathroom door, right? So what I'm trying to say, so we first thing first, first statement has to be true for the second statement to even work. Okay. Now, if the second statement is true, then obviously that will get executed, right, and so forth. Now you can have multiple ifs. You can have as many. That's not a good coding style, right? I don't even like to do this, to be honest with you, right? If I see my programmers are writing nested ifs, it's a rejected code, right? But in our case, since we're kind of learning at an early stage, it's fine, right? You can write maybe one nested if is forgiven, all right? Because we're not learning core computer science, but under the hood, it's a bad way to do it, right? It just takes a lot of memory because it's just kind of going around and around and kind of figure things out, right? So that's okay. One layer is always fine, okay? But if you're going 2 layers in, that means we have to do things differently. It's not necessarily it's wrong, but it's not efficient. It's hard to read. It's not clean, right? I want to be able to just look at the code and understand what's happening. I don't have to guess around and spend too much time. And that's what you guys did here, right? So that was the kind of the problem. You're supposed to just kind of read it and understand it, what's happening, right? All right, so let's do this. Let's do this exercise. And if I run this code and raise your hand, what are the outputs?
It's going to give, please take a water bottle with you. And I think I'll run after the statement.
Please stay at home.
74, you don't stay home, right? All right, so you're saying, all right, so very first thing, I think look at the outer if statement, we are checking the temperature. And then we are checking the weather condition, all right? So the way you know what is outer or inner, you could just kind of like, so you see how you double click? That means everything within that is 2 curly braces. And every time if you get an error, something like this, that means you're missing a curly brace. So if you have one open, you have to have one closed, right? So that's kind of how codes are trapped within a certain scope, right? And we'll go over scoping a little bit, but for now, let's just focus on this. So you see when you click on this, it highlights those 2, right? So that means everything within that is the first if statement, right? And then we build another else if, right? So what she's saying is it's going to get here and do something. But because this happens to be false, right? Temperature is equals to 74, but this saying, hey, if temperature is less than 32, so that means all this code means nothing, right? Nothing's gonna happen here. So we're good. So we are not doing anything in this highlighted code. So come to the second statement. We're saying, hey, if the temperature is greater than or equals to 45 and temperature is less than 75, then I want to do some stuff. Okay? So now that we get here, then we check, well, since this is true, I have access to all these conditions here. Sorry. Now I have access to all these conditions. So I'm eligible to verify the second statement now, right? So I can say, well, I understand this is true, and now I'm checking if weather condition is equals to hot, then I want to print this thing, all right, and then so forth and all that, all right. So let's test this out. I always get confused on this code, and let's see what it prints. And your exercise to go home and just play with this code. Keep changing things around. Keep printing random stuff, right? Maybe add another weather condition here. Do whatever you got to do with it. Just kind of like a sandbox, right? So we're saying, please take your water bottle with you, right? And then don't wear a jacket because it's warm. Right here, right? So that's the part, because see, if because of this condition is true, I got to this code base, right? Because this is also part of your if statements, okay? But that's okay. That's totally fine to miss that. So even if you didn't have the other condition, soon as the first condition became true, you were able to kind of print this out, all right? And then finally, what you have is I run after the if statement. So regardless anything happens, right? Regardless what happens here, it doesn't matter to me, right? So it's like this doesn't exist at all. So once it comes out of the if statement, it will run here. I wish there was an easier way to teach this, but that's the only way we can go through this, all right? So even if you're confused and stuff, that's totally fine. You have 3-4 days to really spend a lot of time. So if you feel like you're a little behind, don't be discouraged. You just have to spend time. You have to be honest with yourself. Not just spending like 1 hour and say, hey, I'm not getting this, right? So make sure you spend a lot of time here. All right, let's test this out.
Please take umbrella.
What would happen now?
Please take umbrella.
Sorry, please take umbrella.
Yeah.
Good, right? And how many lines are gonna print?
And don't wear a jacket because warm outside and warm out.
Yes.
The three-
Good. Excellent. All right. So now, what if we do this? What is it? Temperature is 11 and the weather condition is rain. One person, raise your hand so we can simplify it. Go ahead. It's not. You say what?
It's not snow.
Line number. Which line number will print first?
It's not snowing, it's only cold outside. Second, it's freezing outside. And third, I run after the
That's good, right? I think she's right.
Yeah.
All right, that was a good catch. It's not snowing. It's only cold outside. It's freezing outside, right? And then I run the statement after. Wow, that's good. All right. So for homework, keep adding more logic to this. There's a lot of gaps in holes in here. You have to play around with this, but that's not something you need to submit, right? For submission, I have a different thing. Let me share this code before I forget. Okay. I mean, we all either drove a car or be in a car, right? So let's think of this, right? Um, and you have to do a lot of things here. You have to first identify how many variables you need to mess around with, right? And then write the condition. At what point do I have to write a nested if in here? So first you have to have an outer if statement, and then if that becomes true, you may have to do another if statement inside of it. Now, don't, as I'm reading the requirement, don't try to solve the problem, right? That's not good approach, right? Just read the requirement as, just try to understand the requirement. Solving the problem is when you go home, you know, your mind is fresh and kind of spend some time, right? Um, so here, this is what I want to do. Um, so I want to be able to put a car on. So you have a different mode, right? When you're driving, you have a different gear, right? So you can put car on P mode, D mode, N mode, and R mode, right? So P means I'm at a parking. D means obviously drive. N means neutral, and then R mode. And then keep new conditions starts to come, right? So if I'm on P mode and here's the thing, and parking type is parallel, then I can park between two cars, right? Think of like you're building a very shitty autonomous car, right? So then you can kind of just figure out how many variables you need to deal with. But I don't want to see like 6, 7. It's at most like it's 3. So just to give you a ballpark of where you need to stay. And then I can park. So just print some sort of message saying, hey, car can be parked between two cars. Some sort of system out, right? Be creative with those messages. If I'm on D mode and I can put, if I'm on D mode, then I can put drive type to snow type, sport type, and regular type. So when you're driving, right, you also have another option to put what type of driving you want to do, like a comfort, sport, or four wheel, or whatever may be the case, right? So that option becomes available, but that's only if you are on drive mode. Does that make sense? If I'm on N mode, I can put car in car wash station. So when you are neutral, when you go into car wash, it tell you to put it on N so that that machine kind of can drag the car, right? So that's that. That one's pretty easy. If I'm on R mode, I can only reverse the car, and car will activate back camera, right? So when you hit a reverse, you want to make sure your camera is turned on and giving you that visual that needs to be on the display. So that's what we are writing, like a very skeleton of, like I say, car, right? And then how do we control our car, and something that you can relate to, right? If any of those mode is incorrect, if it's not P, D, N, or R, in theory, it's not going to be possible because we only give them those 4 options. But since, sake of writing the code, if someone tried to put it on a different mode, we're going to say if mode is incorrect, then print me invalid mode type. Please check your car mode. Make sense? Pretty simple stuff, right? So, believe me, in a few weeks you'll be like, oh, we were doing this garbage, right? Because it gets really fun as we kind of continue to start building printers and bicycles and things like that, right? So just bear with me. Any questions on the homework?
Yeah, what is your definition of fun? Every time you say fun.
Yeah, that's why I'm teaching, right? It is.
When you're struggling, it's fun.
It is very hard to be motivated to teach if you're. And no, it's believe it or not, that's probably the reason I'm teaching, right?
Tears of blood.
Yeah, that's. I think you guys are exaggerating. It's not that big of a deal. But think about it, like everything around you can code pretty much these days, right? So, I mean, how is it not fun, right? She's excited. She's like, yeah, that's totally fun. Any questions on the homework?
So we have to do like each of them separately because we cannot go like all together, right?
It's one if like it's kind of like, or it should be something like this. It should be something like this. So it is one if. It's a big if blocks, but it has bunch of conditions controlled.
Like every condition is like different, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what you have to figure out.
It's a lot different statement for each.
Yeah, see, he can help you. All right, but yeah, it's all this condition, but we need to solve it within the same block. Okay, like don't write another if here and then somewhere else another. That's not doing the job, right? It has to be compared against the same values. And listen, if you don't get it right, that's totally fine. That's when you come Saturday, work with Deepak and Asan, and go from there.
We will need a lot more variables.
Oh, see, that's when you go wrong sometimes, right? I'll give you a little bit of hint of how many variable. I mean, think about it. You need one with mode. You need probably one with parking type, and then you probably need to have another one with just regular types, right? So I think that's pretty much it, right? So you not a lot, right? So you're dealing with only few. Now, if you have one for each mode type, you're not doing any comparison, okay? And also go back. Don't try to solve this problem. Go back to today's lecture. All this code I pasted on Slack. See how those are done. I'm not going to assign you something that we didn't go over, right? So it's always like kind of aligned with what we kind of did in class, all right?
We have two homework. Yeah?
Yes,
One.
and then the other one earlier. I'll send this in Slack.
Okay.
Okay. All right, guys. Let's give Nirmal a chance to speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, so for example, the third requirement that you're saying, like if the customer is on the drive mode, so are you expecting us to offer like choose the drive type if that condition is true, or you're just expecting us to print a statement that
So yes, first you can print a statement saying, "Hey, you're on drive mode," but you also should have an option to, put they need to put it on specific type where they want to drive it at, right? If it's snow or sports, this is where you have to make a decision. Do I have a nested if, or how do I go about this?
Okay, so it's not just a matter of giving out a simple.
No. You can give it out a statement long as they're in drive mode, but you have to take care of other stuff as well.
Okay.
All right, go. Anybody else? All right. So let's do one more thing. I wanted to cover a lot more, but I guess we're exhausted. Okay, we'll do this later. It's 9 o'clock. What we're gonna do is next half an hour. I know some of you guys are a little bit confused. Deepak and I will pretty much in a smaller group. If you have questions about the homework or specific if statement, or if you want to go over one of your homework, like that you're confused with, we can take a look at it, right? So first, you can break out, take a break, or come back, right? Whatever may be the case. But if you have any question, we can address that. So nothing is kind of you're not living with any confusion. So with that, Nirmal, let's go over your one. So it doesn't have, you don't have to, it's just going to be individual. So I don't want to put Nirmal in awkward position. So let's go over your
homework.
Yeah, let me show you what I was expecting, right?
Sure.
You see how this code was, and compared to the code that you have, right? Look at your code. You have system out, and you're entering temperature in Celsius. Then you have create a new variable to take that temperature, right, from the scanner, which you're doing it. That's fine. That's kind of what I'm doing here, but I'm hard coding that 32. But I don't see your formula at all, because for me, I have a formula right here. And that's what returns me the Celsius based on the Fahrenheit I dump in here.
Is it my formula right there? Double like temperature in Kelvin is equal to whatever the temperature in
No,
Celsius.
that's not a formula. That's just you're adding whatever you're taking from scanner and you're adding to this. So if you send 2, what all you're doing is this is becoming 275.15. You need something like this. So you have to Google this out.
This formula is in Celsius to Kelvin. It's good.
This one?
Yeah, formula like this. If you try to Celsius to Kelvin,
You just add it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay. So sorry. Alright.
Yeah, the formula itself.
No,
is
then it's good.
that.
Then it's good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right then. You're fine then. Anybody else have questions from online?
So actually, I have a follow-up question on that.
Okay.
So now that let's say I entered Celsius is equal to 2, right? So then my output would be 275.15,
Yeah.
which is what I expect.
Mhm.
But let's say if I put like temperature in Celsius is like 2.7.
It will
So-
add it. It will add this thing.
Yeah, but the way it adds is instead of showing like 275.22, it would show like 275.19999.
Oh yeah, we have
Yeah.
to do like ceiling and floor. When we do go over math class, there's gonna be a class we're gonna go over all the mathematical stuff we can do to get those numbers correct. You'll
Okay.
get that. Yeah.
Okay, so I was just wondering if you have to import any library that takes care
No,
of
yeah,
that.
it will take care of that.
Okay.
Kind of like you know how we do in Excel. If you hit the numbers and then you can choose if you want decimal after 10 or 20 and things like that. We can do all that stuff in Java as well.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Right. Thanks.
Because when we try to make Celsius to Kelvin or Kelvin to Celsius, make it 0.000 something.